Hi everyone, welcome to UI5ers Live. In today's episode, we are gonna dive into SAP UI5 Flexibility, specifically focusing on Adaptation Project. And for that, we've Mikhail Binderski.
Hi everyone.
And Christo Zolev dropping by.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, Christo is in charge of the Adaptation Project tooling and will showcase the highly anticipated enablement of SAP UI5 Adaptation Project for Visual Studio Code. And additionally, Mikhail, the main man of SAP UI5 Flexibility in general, has some additional updates about adaptation projects, particularly in S/4HANA Cloud environment. And we are also joined by Stefan Beck.
Hi.
And Andreas Kunz.
Hello.
Yeah, as for me, I'm Margot Wolny, your host for today. So before I hand over to Mikhail and Christo, there's one little thing I want to chat about. I'm sure many of you are familiar with our popular walkthrough tutorial. And yeah, we keep getting asked when we are going to release a TypeScript version, now that we are all about TypeScript for developing UI5 applications. So I'm stoked to say it's finally here. Right now, you can find the tutorial on GitHub, but with the next UI5 release, which is 1.121, you'll also find it in our official documentation. So here, this is the GitHub repository where you can find the UI5 TypeScript walkthrough. And here you see, like in the README, there's all like the details you normally also know from our documentation. And we also deployed all the the description for each step also as GitHub page. So there you can also find it there. And just going there back, like in the README, I think what's in general nice, you can find here the overview. And for each step, you have like, let's take, for example, that one, a live preview where you can check how it works and so on. And then also go, and then you can also download like the solution. So if you download this and open it then, for example, with your tooling of choice, yeah, there on the terminal. There, if you make just npm install, then it will download there everything, and there you can see for sure all the files that you need for the step. So you, in case you want to start from that step, you can use this then as a basic then. And like maybe the difference to that one, what you normally find in the demo code is that here you find 2 index files. There you can see like the difference if you serve the full project like locally or if you are using our CDN one. Yeah. And now if it's there, you just make npm start, and then hopefully everything will start and work. Takes a bit. Yeah, so you can see it looks exactly what I showed you like from the GitHub repository. So quite easy, like even to install it locally for this. And I think it's really great to have it on GitHub. So also if you have some feedback or see something that can be improved, just open there a pull request and we can like quickly work on it and you see immediately the results and don't have to wait for any patch or so. So I think it's really great. And I would be really interested to see, because we also change a bit the order of how we explain things. So I would be really interested in your opinion, how this works for you, and if you are still missing some information or so to understand like the real steps and so. But that's, I think, enough about the tutorial. Most of you know the content, so I don't go there into deep. And with this, I think I can hand over to Michael.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks for having us. Hi, everyone in the community. So today we will be talking about two flexibility-related topics. And before I hand over to Christo to do the real show and the demo, I just wanted to shortly put it in the context. So as you might already know, about when we talk about flexibility, we are talking about personalization and adaptation. So we are focusing on three different roles, and users are of course personalizing applications for themselves. They're typically doing very easy changes in the UI directly of the running app and in the running system. And then we have more comprehensive options for key users with a specific dedicated business role. They can adapt applications not only for all of their end users, they can also specify for which business roles they are doing such changes. With our recent innovation in the area of context-based adaptation, and key users are empowered to define UIs for many users in their companies. Key user is defined as non-technical persona, so she or he have no technical skills, but business knowledge. And we try to empower key users to do as many changes as possible in this layer. And we also know from many customer interactions that even IT people are enjoying working with key user tools more than working with developer tools when they need to do slight changes to the UI, because it's much cheaper in terms of you don't need a project, you don't have this lengthy test phases, you don't have to deploy and confront with all the complexities. So even IT organizations are really liking key user tools. However, obviously, sometimes key user tools are not enough, and sometimes the real coding is involved, even if you are extending standard SAP UI5 applications, and then, for instance, you want to define your own custom logic or define completely freestyle new UI elements as extensions to the standard UI. In this case, is developer adaptation via so-called Adaptation Project is to be used, and it really allows to combine the visual tooling which we provide for key users with more comprehensive code-based changes, which we allow only for developers. And until now, it was only possible to create such developer extensions in SAP Business Application Studio, and previously in WebID, of course, via so-called Adaptation Project. And with a recent innovation, we have also enabled this functionality in Visual Studio Code. So with that, I hand over to Christo to showcase.
As mentioned, I will be sharing the typical user workflow for creating an adaptation project and doing some changes in it. So let's say some Fiori application can get adapted to the business needs. So we start with launching the command palette and using the open template wizard command, which will launch the so-called template wizard, and we will have the option to create an adaptation project. This will lead us to a few steps to create it. So, for example, now I have different properties for the project. Let's name it like this: customer adaptation demo 1 with application title. This is the namespace which is automatically generated. We can proceed. Oops. My bad. So we can proceed to the next step, which is seeing actually predefined list of systems similar to the BTP destinations, but because we are using the context of VSCode and not the context of Business Application Studio, we cannot have the nice destinations from there, and we have to define our own systems here. So there is the Fiori extension, which allows us to do it with this view called subsystems, and from here we can add another system or edit the existing one. So currently I have added this internal testing system, and now there's just this choice in the list here, but the developer can add whatever number of systems he wants here. So after we have chosen the system, there's this list of available applications which is extracted from the system. So let's just choose one demo application, for example, this manage products application, which is suitable for demoing. Let's use the latest SAP UI5 version here. And when we press finish, the project will start getting generated. So there will be a certain amount of time, let's say a few tens of seconds, that are needed to be installed all dependencies there. Because as I mentioned, we're not running in Business Application Studio context, so things are happening on our own machine and not on the dev space that's from the BTP. So during this time, which shouldn't take a long ago, I will show you the existing, the already generated project structure. So there are a few files here. Manifest app descriptor variant file, which is our main file, which describes the different properties that we already set. For example, they are not supposed to be touched by the developer, but the developer can, let's say, if needs, let's say, the namespace or something, he can see it from here. Also, there's the YAML file in which I will have to turn one option off because I am currently acting as an external, but basically being internal in SAP. So I will have to change, just for the sake of the demo purpose, one setting that's not needed by anyone else. So hopefully the dependencies will get installed very soon. And we will have the project up and running. So now we will have a couple of options. In order to start the project, we will be able to start just the preview of the application, which will launch in a separate browser tab and will show us the fully functioning base application together with all our changes being, which will be created later on. So we will be able to fully test and see what has been generated there. And also we will be able to open the so-called adaptation editor, which will launch in another browser tab and will give us the option to create changes and add fragments and add controller extensions and all other types of nice things to the adaptation project.
Christo, is it needed that you have a debugger running?
No, it's just there because I have used it for another project and it's just on. Maybe it's taking some more time because of this.
Delays it a little bit. But
yeah,
it shouldn't be that long. It should not be that extreme.
Yeah, I think I am currently logged into the VPN and this might have some connection issues. It's already there. So as you see now, there's this application which is up and running with everything is fully functional. Let's try to extract some data and check that connection to the old data is there. So now we can try to open the adaptation editor, which will launch separate browser window and give us the opportunity to add changes. Hopefully this happens faster. So I will drag now the editor in focus.
Yeah, so maybe to explain what's happening in the background. So both for preview and for adaptation editor, we are really using application from the system. So it's the same application connected to the data from the system. So it's not a mock data or whatever. And usually, of course, it's done in the development tenant or in dev system. And you have to have the data there in order to preview application. And then this is a real preview. And that is why it's taken also a bit of a time to establish all these connections and pull the data. And the advantage it gives, of course, is that you can reach all the needed pages and UIs in your application, because it's not empty, but with the real data from the backend.
Yeah. Now we will see the preview of the application, but this time loaded in adaptation mode, which will it's again the absolute application loading here. So with real data, as Michael said, so that's why it's again taking some time. So as you all now see, I can hover everything in the application here, and I can try to select it. And there's all the properties for the selected control, which are listed from the right hand side, and they can be changed. For example, the filter bar can be expanded or not expanded. Let's do a simple change here on this table. There's the use export to Excel, which is this button here, and I just can disable it. You see it disappears from here, and there's a change being created for this one. I can save it, and I can go again to the preview that I was just shown, and I can just refresh the page, and we will see that it will not be there anymore. This is just a simple property change, but all the properties for all the controls here can be also changed. As you see, the button is not here. So the most interesting part, of course, is being able to add XML fragments and controller extensions. So let's try to add a fragment to the custom filter bar. So here we have a few options, the target aggregation of the control, which index we want to use, and the name of our fragments. So let's use this for the sake of the demo. You see now there's another change being created for the add XML action. So we can just save it, and we can go to VSCode. So the change that has been created actually added a empty fragment, empty XML fragment here. So I will use now my predefined code here, which will actually define new filter as a drop down in the fragment. So I can just save it and go to the preview and refresh again, so we can see the change applied. So this change actually introduced another dropdown here, which is this one, purchase approval, no approval required, and approval required. So this is just a visual representation of the XML fragment, so no coding has been added yet, and now we will add some coding and some actions to be done to it. Oops, I need the control property editor. So now I can also right click and extend with controller and choose extend with controller, which will give me the opportunity to name my controller. Let's just use the demo controller name and press create. Now what this action does is again create another change and add another file, which is called demo controller as we named it, with just a few samples of methods that can be overridden in the project. But let's use the one that's, as I said, prepared for the demo, which will basically use a simple predefined constant approval limit 5. So it will give the opportunity for the user to filter all of the items based on their price, and we'll be able to filter the ones that are below 5 and the ones that are over 5, so they can be purchased, approved for purchase. So now I just save the file and I go to the preview and I refresh it. So the changes get applied. And now we will be able to see this coding in action. For example, with no approval required, we should have only items with price lower than 5. And we have one item costing $2.3. And if we go for approval required, we will have all the items above $5, which is everything else basically. But as you see, the basic simplicity of being able to add your own coding here and being able to change the behavior of the application with just a few lines of code. So I will also now show the ability for translation, which means that I will use the files which are in the project. For example, this list report application. So I will change the I18N properties file. This will give the user the ability to add key value pairs of keys and values for the text. So now we have keys and we have values. I have added this translation text at the end, so we can just change that everything is being applied at the end and not have the same text. So if we go back to the fragment and just use this pointing here for the labels and for the options, so that everything points to the, oh, I missed the code here. So everything points to the already defined keys. Now we save it and just go to the application again and now refresh it again to get the changes applied. Now we will see all the translations actually coming from the I18N file, which is this one, this one, and this one. This is the super easy way for the developer to add those translation files for whatever languages they want, and also add them to the project. So the last step is deploying the project, which is again very easy thing to do. You can just press right click on the manifest sub descriptor file, use the open deployment wizard option, which will now show the wizard to do it. You see the system which has been the project has been created for. You just press next. I will just use the testing package. I press finish and everything is deployed successfully. Of course, if you need a package, if there's need of a transport for package, the wizard will ask for it. But I just use the test package. So I am open for questions.
So there was a question in the chat about the unique IDs, stable IDs. So for the correct work of the UI5 flexibility in a freestyle UI5 application, should all of the controls have a unique stable ID, right? So actually unique, they have to be always, otherwise you will get an exception from UI5. But the question is mainly about stable. So we'll generate unique IDs in UI5 framework, but they will be random more or less. Now the question is probably more about, do they need to be stable?
Yeah, I can maybe pick this one. So if your application are missing stable IDs for some controls, those controls won't be adaptable. So you won't be able to change properties of such controls, refer to them in the controller extensions, or interact with them in the VSCode editor, like for drag and dropping them. But all other controls which are having stable IDs still will be adaptable. So there is no prerequisite to have all of your controls covered via stable IDs to be able to extend the application. We recommend it, so of course, to always use stable IDs. But if your application doesn't fulfill it for some places, it's not a blocker, and still can be used with Adaptation Project. I've pasted also a link to their general guide how to enable your application, which also mentioned this information. The most important one in it is about having asynchronous views and routing, because otherwise you won't be able, for instance, to use controller extensions. I think that should answer this, I hope.
There's another question in the Q&A tool, which is from Attila. He writes, hello all, can we use adaptation projects for CAP service-based applications hosted on BTP Launchpad services, or this possibility is available only for on-premise ABAP server hosted Fiori apps?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in general, we support BTP Cloud Foundry environment. However, there is one prerequisite that application should be exposed as a so-called business service with UI. And currently, this is not available for custom applications, such business service model. We will be working on making custom applications, so not SAP standard, but developed by partners and customers, also extensible during this year. So that will appear on the roadmap during the year, and we will be covering this. Are there any other questions or then maybe I add some important points and continue with the next topic. So thank you very much, Risto, for the demo. I think we were able really to see that the tooling is now available. It looks slightly different. It's part of Fiori tools, but it should be fully familiar to those of you who already worked with it in the past. You can also see some nice improvements, like you have information for control properties when you hover them, and other nice things in the control property editor. Have to make a disclaimer. So currently we released it, just it's kind of hot from the press. It was released end of last year, and we've because it's the first release, we officially marked that as experimental release, because the tooling is still in the shaping phase, and as well as the documentation, and it's only support ABAP on premise in VSCode. So despite it being in experimental state from the tooling perspective, if you create an adaptation project and deploy it to the system, so the extension which you build with that can be used productively, because there is no difference from the deployment time, whether it's created in BAS or in VSCode. Just as a important thing to mention. We will continue to evolve the tooling in VSCode until it reaches full functionality of Business Application Studio, and then we are also going to merge the code lines. So we are going to fully switch to the code line which you have seen now in VSCode, being part of Fiori tools, also in Business Application Studio going forward, as of course we want to support just one code line. And still, SAP Business Application Studio will remain the recommended approach for adaptation projects going further, even so we are adding support for VSCode. So with that, we are concluding the part about adaptation project in VSCode, and stay tuned for more nice features to come during the year, as I've mentioned already. Another announcement, there will be no demo and not really a time for it, but it's a very nice thing to mention for those of you who are working with S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. We are now delivered with 2402 also possibility to extend SAP UI5 applications with adaptation project in S/4HANA Cloud, which is the first time ever that developers have extensibility options for UIs in S/4HANA Cloud. And developers there can enjoy also the full scope of extensions. So UI changes, control extensions, XML, app descriptor, there are no limitations in this regards. So whatever you have seen today is still applicable. However, it's only in SAP Bus for now. And once we switch code lines, you will also have it in VSCode later this year. Result of adaptation project, it's so-called app variant. It can be again deployed to S/4HANA Cloud system and configured as a new tile, completely similar to to any custom SAP UI5 application you build from their own. So after it's deployed, you see no difference between this or any other custom application. We are working, and this is of course a very popular demand, on the possibility to replace original application style and target mapping with the extended version. So this is also planned. There is some difference which I want to highlight, but just very briefly because we are short on time, for S/4HANA Cloud, because it's a cloud system and it's not like an on-premise where customers control the update. We have some changes in architecture with regards to how we treat adaptation project. So the most important thing is that we are copying all UI artifacts of the original application to be able to keep it stable, to be able to keep extensions stable after the system upgrade. We, of course, still refer to the sources of the original application. So once upgrade happens, you still can benefit from it and apply your deltas on top of it. But at the runtime, the copy of the application is created, and it includes all UI artifacts and annotations. And this will allow to prevent any crashes after the upgrade. Customers can use ATC checks or schedule a job to get notified about the upgrades of the original application, and currently manually adapt adaptation projects to the later stage, but just deploying it once again if everything works fine. And we have in the planning also the pipeline for automating this process. You can use Fiori reference library to check which applications from SAP are already supporting this feature. You can find this in an implementation information and extensibility section. If it mentions that it's extensible by adaptation project, then you can select this app for extensions, and S4 is working to expand the scope of applications. As well as you can release your own applications as for HANA Cloud, also following the contract part, just consult with our documentation. And just one thing to mention, there are still rules for building your extensions, which are just very simple best practices, which will allow you to have the process smooth. So just follow the best practices from UI5 when building your extensions. Use stable IDs and do resilient coding in terms of you have to check that controls you're accessing exist. And this will basically make your life easier once you upgrade to the later version of application, because adaptation project still brings you this benefit that you build your extensions and you can use them and benefit from further application upgrades, even in S/4HANA Cloud.
There's actually one question about this creating adaptation projects in S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, whether we need embedded steampunk for it.
So it's the development tenant in S/4HANA Public Edition is an embedded steampunk, as far as I recall. So of course you need the development tenant. So you need three SL, 3 system landscape, and as per my knowledge, this is what is called embedded steampunk.
No, just an additional question came up, I think. In case we adapt an S/4HANA Cloud application and the standard app sources is copied for compatibility, at what stage the new standard will be merged into the copied app? this should happen at some time to keep track of standard improvements and incorporate them. Is that what customer needs to trigger?
Yeah, that's a good question, and maybe I was a bit in a hurry explaining this, so let me put it right. So adaptation project still only contains the data to the extended application. The difference is once we deploy the adaptation project to S/4HANA system, we create so-called runtime snapshot, which will be runnable after the system upgrade and which will contain the artifacts of the original application in the state before the upgrade. With that, we can guarantee that there will be no crashes of the extension after the upgrade. And then we'll be notifying customers via this ATC checks where you get such notifications anyhow for all ABAP related stuff, and ask customers to test that adaptation project with a new version of UI is still running properly, that business scenario is fulfilled, and confirm it by deploying it again. And once it deployed again, it will contain the latest snapshot, so the state of the application after the upgrade. And of course, as SAP only supports latest state of application, so it's very important to do it in the timely manner. But there will be no timers running or whatever to enforce you to do so. But of course, we strongly recommend to do it as soon as possible so that you benefit from the upgrades of the application. And in future, we want to provide this pipeline automation so that instead of doing this manually, there is a test running, and if test reports green, then the pipeline already triggers upgrade. So I hope that should answer the question.
Especially the tooling thingy that you plan sounds quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to that one. I guess this is also something we can show then here one time it's there.
Sure, we'll be happy to show it once it's available. I'm also eager.
Yeah, in time. So it's even 1 minute after. So thanks a lot, you both. I think it was really a great session and really appreciated also by our audience. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And for the others, the next UI5ers Live will be in March 14th. There we will talk about some tooling again, as we plan to provide a UI5 linter that will help you with some upgrade projects. So be curious about that one. And saying goodbye for today.
Bye-bye.